Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jerry Bees. Tonight, I think we're in for a doozy. A little while back on my paid reaction streams, somebody had requested American Teenager by Ethel Cain, and the chat got really excited, which confused me because I have no idea who Ethel Cain is, at least before that point. And I liked it. It was a pretty good song, but then everybody was kind of saying, like, you need to listen to that album. You need to listen to that album. I don't know how this passed me by, but in 2022, Ethel Cain, this musician I had never heard of before, dropped the album that we are going to be reacting to today, and that is Preacher's Daughter. Now, on the show, I don't like to look too much into the album that we're about to react to. And I definitely don't do Genius, so that won't be happening tonight. I will not be using Genius. I try to not use Genius whenever I can. I think so far on the channel, we've only used it the once, and that was on The Forever Story by Jid. But people did say that you had to look the synopsis up at least a little bit, and I did. And so it seems as though Preacher's Daughter kind of follows a story of religious, like, repression and maybe oppression to kind of like a coming of age and stepping out of that box and becoming your own person to kind of push that old life away and paving your own path instead of the path that's laid out in front of you from whatever church doctrine is dictating your life. And it's kind of funny that that's happening now because last week we reacted to Sempiternal by Bring Me the Horizon. Go watch that video if you haven't. But a lot of those themes were present there, but it seems as though that this is going to be kind of like a hard-nosed concept album, and I'm very excited for that. Love me some concept albums. Love me some really good ideas that are consistent throughout the album that we can stew in. And this one's pretty long too, so I think that this is going to be right up my alley. Somebody's saying, you can enjoy it without, but you'll definitely miss out on some of the details without the genius. I agree with you, but imagine like listening to a song for the first time, like you're driving down the road and you got something on shuffle, it's your Discover Weekly. You're not going to have the genius open while you're listening to a song for the first time. That just is never going to happen. So I feel like if I have any questions, Genius is a great resource for that. There's a lot that's missed in the way of my own interpretations of things, like right off the bat. That's kind of the whole point of what this is, right? But before we get started, don't forget to like the video and please comment down below on your thoughts on my thoughts as we go along through the album. And also as we go through the album, just remember that my reactions and commentary are inherently biased. But other times, it's a bit of a struggle to determine how biased a piece of media is one way or another, especially in today's age of echo chambers and misinformation. And that's why I use today's sponsor, Ground News. As this channel's first sponsor, I wanted to promote a product that I truly believed in and would actually benefit my audience. And Ground News does just that by combining news sources from around the world in one place so you can compare them for yourself. For every news source, you can see if they have a political bias, how reliable their reporting is, and probably most importantly, who owns them. Their blind spot feature is probably my favorite aspect of Ground News as it highlights news disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. Now, I don't want you guys to think that I just took this sponsorship just to take it. I have a bit of a dog in this fight, as you may not know, and you probably don't know. I went to journalism school and have a degree in journalism, and I worked in journalism. Curtailing news bias and encouraging media literacy was really at the forefront of a lot of the conversations we had when I worked as a reporter. So I find that Ground News is the perfect tool to get you thinking freely about the news coverage that inundates our timelines. Go to check.ground.news/JerryBees to get 40% off the Vantage subscription, which unlocks unlimited article access, ownership data, and factuality ratings. Ladies and gentlemen, this would be a bargain at double the price. And remember that your subscription to Ground News doesn't only help my channel, but it also helps Ground News. It helps Ground News as they make the media landscape more transparent and keep you more well-informed about the world around you. Again, that's check.ground.news/JerryBees to get 40% off the Vantage subscription for Ground News. Now back to the video. So this is it, folks. This is Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain, 2022, 13 songs, an hour and 15 minutes. Looking like we got some odysseys going on here, and we will see if we need therapy. First song, Family Tree.
These crosses all over my body remind me of who I used to be. Jesus can always
absolute gas on that one, folks. So like I said towards the intro, right, we had listened to Bring Me the Horizon, Sempiternal. This is Sandpit Turtle, as it were. And there are some themes about, questioning powerful institutions, namely the church, right, in its royal sense. And so knowing the synopsis of the album, this is a great jumping off point because we're starting from, I guess, the lineage to how she got here. I find it very interesting, this opening quote here from, I'm assuming is some pastor guy at a sermon, talking about, a woman, a mother. It's a very special thing. So maybe is that foreshadowing some issues she's had in her own family, or like just oftentimes I feel that at least a lot of conservative religions, religions can be secular, which it's kind of redundant. There's a lot of repression, especially in women, right? So maybe it's calling something out there, but a lot of the production, like she's singing and it just keeps echoing and there's so much reverb, and I can't imagine that she's singing this like in a great cathedral or something like that. So set and setting has me down to a T. And, there's this concept of the fates here, right? He'll never escape what he's made up of. So, as far as like Christ was kind of fated to end up the way that he was, right? And died for all of our sins. So the story goes. And how she's kind of relating that to herself, where, she's kind of been fated already, And then this line, which is just really, really jarring, and kind of fantastic, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. So yeah, we'll see where this goes from here. I am quite excited. Before I, go on, and I'll leave this for you, the chat. I've had my own religious deconstruction, right? But I'm gonna say what I gotta say. I'll say this though. I know a lot of atheists who are pieces of fucking shit, and I know that are my age, that are just terrible human beings, and I know quite a few very religious people who got their faith all up in Jesus, who are just some of the best people that I know in my entire life. So it's almost like you should just respect people. So I don't mean to offend, but I got my own opinions here. I think next is American Teenager, which is the only song that I know of Ethel Cain, and then everything else is going to be a surprise. So we will go ahead and revisit American Teenager. I don't think I've reacted to it. No, I reacted to it the once, but I don't think I've listened to it since. So knowing that this is kind of in the context of the album, let's go ahead and spin it.
Putting too much faith in the make-believe in another high school football team. Say what you want, but say it like you mean it with your fist for once. A long cold war with your kids in the front. Just give it one more day, then you're done. Been to my knees and a room full of faces. I'm sorry if I seemed off, but I was probably wasted and didn't feel so good with you. You're there in the middle of the night when the lights go out, but I'm still standing here. Say what you want for me.
All right, so pause it there before the song is like officially over, just because I got a lot of things to say about this. So I'm going to take this off right here because she said do it for Dale, and I got the Dales right fucking there. Do it for the Dales, right? Come on now. Do it for the Dales. Jerry literally soy jack pointed to Dale. Self-produced, self-written, and independently released, Jerry. Yeah, this is kind of crazy. I didn't really say it. I guess I alluded to it with, just how, the reverb sounded on that last song. But this album sounds so good so far. I highly doubt that at some point it's just going to sound like absolute shit. It might, right? It's all about my ears anyway. She's painting this picture that I think a lot of people can relate to, right? Especially if you're in those small towns, which I believe that's kind of like the setting of this album. The neighbor's brother came home in a box, but he wanted to go, so maybe it was his fault, right? So it's just kind of one of those things where, as you grow up, maybe some people went into the service, and it's this idea of the American dream. Be a cheerleader, go to the varsity football games, support the troops, all of that stuff, right? Gotta say here, at least in how the lyrics are written on Spotify, and that's what we're going off of here, folks. Jesus, if you're there, why do I feel alone in this room with you? So not only is she kind of talking about this connect within her own faith, which again, it's important to remember that faith and religion are two very different things, at least to me. And, this seems as though this is kind of going to be like a slide, towards Christianity, but at least she's capitalizing you. You know what I mean? So I guess that's the least if you can do. If you're going to make something which people would otherwise call blasphemy, well, you're given the proper capitalization on the pronoun. Jerry B's is kind of like a prettier Jesus. Well, Jesus wasn't white, first of all, so we'll keep this going, folks. All right, moving on. This is House in Nebraska.
You and me against the world. You were my man and I your girl. We had nothing except each other. You were my whole world. And the day came, and you were up and gone. While the world was empty, save you and I. Where you came and I left, and you left and I cried. I'm the reason you won't come home, but I still call home. That house in Nebraska. I was never scared to tell. I heard and find out that I just pray that you're alright. And I feel so weak.
Yeah. So this song is just under 8 minutes long, and it was too short. There might be better lost love songs and like heartbreak songs that have lyrics that are maybe a little bit more relatable to any given situation that you happen to be in, that I happen to be in, and that we go to in those times, or we hear it takes us back to a certain place, a certain person. The way that this song is produced, it perfectly encapsulates that emotion to where she didn't have to say a goddamn thing, and I would have gotten the point. This was, this could have gone on for 15 more minutes, and I wouldn't have cared. Now, 16 minutes, I would have said, too long, song sucks, but it didn't. And this was really, really good. We got a really good comment here in chat. This is why I'm so happy she self-produced, because I know a producer would have made her speed this up slightly and they would be wrong. I agree. I think maybe towards my earlier reactions on this channel, the slower songs are fine. And I love my slower songs. We all have our good slow songs, but some people really like that slow sound just for the sake of the slow sound. And that's not me. You got to give me something a little bit more to it, whether it's just your voice and the piano. You got to make it work. And again, all of us have different ears, right? It's all our own biases. Ground news. But here it's between the production and her voice, you know, and I'm glad I didn't say it before, and I think this is the last time I'm going to say it. In that first song, you know, it sounds like what little Lana Del Rey I've listened to. Now, in a couple weeks, we are going to listen to my first Lana Del Rey album ever, so if you want to catch that, make sure that you're here for that, and that you go ahead and at least subscribe to me if you want to see that video after the stream. But that's really disingenuous just based on the fact that I don't want to hear somebody that maybe sounds like Lana Del Rey, and I'm glad Ethel Cain does, because it does sound very nice, but this is her voice. And it's her voice not only in just her singing voice, but it's how she chooses to tell the story that she chooses to tell. And this was just exceptional. This really just made my day. Okay, moving on. Western Nights.
He's never looked more beautiful on his Harley in the parking lot, breaking into the ATMs. The neighbors beat on the walls while I'm face first in the bed. Trouble's always gonna find you, baby, but so will I. Crying only because I'm happy. I haven't spoken to my daddy in a long, long time. I don't want him to worry. Always wondering if I'm alright. Behind you, gliding through all these western nights. Through these western nights.
All right, so that was Western Nights, and I caught somebody in chat say that, you know, this is a different love interest, but I honestly didn't even see that to kind of get a handle on that not being the case, because, you know, it seemed as though, you know, within the last song, if these are about two different love interests, it makes it pretty apparent, because, you know, we have this very intimate kind of moment, or maybe a handful of these very intimate moments in House in Nebraska, where here, this is like this is my bad boy side piece. That's what's going on here. But still, like, there's just something about like this depiction of this idea of the America that she's talking about. Even through, you know, this line, like, riding through all these Western nights, you can just like imagine like them in a car together, and there's just neon signs and nothing all around them. Or this line about how the neighborhood keeps getting smaller, where, you know, maybe in more rural areas, people tend to move out and go to the cities where there's jobs, or, you know, maybe there's plight with, you know, violence or drugs or something like that. So this is definitely calling upon, you know, something a little bit bigger in that kind of depiction of America, which I think is also at the heart of all of this. And we'll see what happens when we go along. You know, just like this young, crazy, wild, young, messy love thing that we got going on here. The only song I don't like, and then everything else is perfect. You know, this one, it didn't grab me as much as House in Nebraska did, as far as like maybe like a slower, more atmospheric kind of piano song. But I think some thematically and conceptually, we're getting somewhere with this, and I think this is pushing the story along quite well, actually. And I didn't mention this at the top of the video, but if you want to catch all of these streams unedited and before they come out on YouTube, make sure you go ahead and click one of the links down in the description to my Patreon, where for just $1 a month, you get this stream unedited and every other album reaction stream that I've ever done unedited for just $1 a month. Isn't that super cool? Got to move the Patreon plug back now that I'm doing the live ad read. Moving on here, folks, we got Family Tree.
These crosses all over my body.
Call back from the beginning of the album.
I'm just a child, but I'm not above violence. Me down to the river and bathe me clean. Bit tight around my head. They say heaven hath no fury like woman scorn. So take me down to the river and bathe me clean. These crosses all over my body. Yeah, take me down to
Oh, hello, bass. Bass at the end? Ugh. Jim, what'd you think of that one?
It's good shit, pal.
I'll say. Holy God. Is it Guitar Hero Ethel Cain? Because those guitar tones just sound so good. And then I was thinking like, oh, this guitar sounds really good here. And then her voice comes over on top of it. And it's like, oh, okay. That's the star of the show here. There's a transition happening here. You know, whether or not she feels scorned, like heaven hath no fury like a woman scorned. And I've referenced that in a couple Taylor Swift videos. And baby, hell don't scare me. I've been times before. This idea of, you know, the baptism or just cleaning something off of you. And I guess I'm a little confused about, you know, like all the way to the chapel. Could the chapel just be like this other idea of a place of salvation and sanctuary, or is it meant to be quite literal? It's basically her relinquishing her past and being reborn as her new self. The figurative baptism lends itself to the religious ceremony for being reborn. Okay, yeah. So it seems as though we were along the same lines there. It's just absolutely wicked. You know, these longer tracks. You know, this is 7 minutes long. Again, like I'm stewing in this so well. You got some onions and some carrots and some celery, and then her voice comes in like these sweet little bay leaves. Oh man, moving on. We got Hard Times.
Tell me a story about how it ends, where you're still the good guy. I'll make pretend. A little girl who needs her daddy real bad. I was too young to notice that some types of love could be bad. Praying I'd be like you.
that fades us out. That was Hard Times, and not really a sense of like jubilation in terms of A, just how it sounded, and B, like, you know, the last song had us in like, okay, I'm this new person, I'm reborn, and we're going forward. But maybe this is one of the things that, you know, you kind of have to go forward to it. And I'm not saying that this one sounded bad. It still sounds great. You know, that's still very much consistent there. You know, it's this, and it's always been so personal as it seems until this point. So I can't imagine that this is any less personal here, which is, you know, seems unfortunate. You know, this idea that, you know, we look to our parents with like unconditional trust and love, and it seems as though that trust and love has been betrayed here, and that's just a very hard thing to deal with. You know, and especially this line where you know, it like little girl who needs her daddy real bad. So, you know, you can look at that one sentence there and just kind of go off the fact like, okay, maybe wasn't there for her in the ways that she needed him to be. But then there's the line that some types of love can be bad. So whether or not that's tough love, or that could extend to other types of abuse or things of that nature, not really sure what I can get away with saying here on YouTube, but this really does, beyond that, brings this album down to a point that is just very vulnerable and honest, but gets to the, you know, maybe the root of why change was needed. You know, maybe the change and transition that we're seeing in that last song. You know, these are some of the things that we're running away from. This is what we need our white horse for. The specific cycle of abuse is carried forward, and it's unforgivable. And yet they were once a child who was hurt. And where do they go from there? I think it's, you know, I am not a psychologist or a therapist or anything of that nature, but I think far too often adults just forget what it's like to be a kid, or they remember too harshly what it's like to be a kid. And then maybe the only way to, you know, resolve that without any real healthy coping mechanism is to inflict that onto somebody else. You know, just this idea of generational trauma, I believe, is the correct term for this. And you know, a heart goes out to everybody who's, you know, been in this position, and hopefully that you can see to an end that doesn't result in that. Yeah, this isn't Paramore's Hard Times. Doesn't really feel very appropriate, if I'm being completely honest with you. Yeah, we are kind of halfway through the album now, at least as far as the track listing is concerned. Heading into our 7th track here, this is Thoroughfare, coming in at 9 and a half minutes. This is the longest song on the album, which means in Ethel Cain standards, this is going to feel like a 90-second song.
You had to get out and go chasing that sweet call.
Is right, girl.
So I hopped right in, out of luck to spin, and at least your truck beats walking. And you said, hey, do you wanna see the West with me? Who wasn't angry, and he said it's been a long damn time since I left Florida. No one left to leave, and no one left to love. But now that I met you, I finally know just where I'm headed. And sweating, you said, hey, do you wanna see the West with me? And then you turned to me instead, and to me deep, and said, well, maybe not, 'cause look at what I've got. You might not be my love, but baby, I doubt it. And you said, hey, do you wanna see the West with me?
We're going to have more than 2 minutes of instrumental here, so where's she going to take me? Out west, perhaps?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's good shit, pal.
Sausage.
I think I'm not cut out to do this anymore, you guys. I think this is the last song I'm ever reacting to. It's that good. This is going to sound like horseshit to a lot of people. So I will phrase it as a question first. Does she listen to a lot of Bob Dylan? Because the songwriting in this is phenomenal. You know, and Bob did quite a few very narrative driven songs. And those are the ones that I kind of attached myself to. And maybe it was just the inclusion of the harmonica. I get it. You could just say, I could see you in the YouTube comments now. Oh, well, you're just saying Bob Dylan because of the harmonica. No, I'm saying Bob Dylan because this is such good songwriting. And, and I think you could look at Bob Dylan as, a modern day folk singer, maybe not so much modern anymore, but especially like back in the 60s, paint us a picture of what America was like. And this is kind of what's going on here, but shit that's still would work even back in the 60s, I feel, because there's nothing that's no references to anything that's so modern or recent to where I think that this could stretch across generations. And the layering, the production, the little 2 minutes of just her voice, and just with the banging of like the hand drum to the certain beat, was that a freaky time in a motel kind of thing. She's painting me this picture that I can't get out of my head. And if it's not Bob Dylan, then, just with the kind of Western cowboy feel, maybe a Townes Van Zandt kind of a deal, just depressing cowboy shit, which is what Townes Van Zandt was. And it's phenomenal. Yeah. Well, that's all you guys have been saying. Oh, just wait for what's coming. It keeps coming. It just won't stop. Okay, moving on. Gibson Girl, possibly talking about her guitar. Is it a town? Townes Van Zandt. I'm right.
Asking me to know how I know. Black leather and dark glasses. Pour in another while I shake my asses. Cold blooded, so it takes my time to bleed. Baby, if it feels good, then it can't be bad. Where can be tomorrow in a stranger's life?
Yeah, I'm into BDSM. Beautiful damn songs, music. That's what that one is. Yeah, I mean, atmospherically, we're still right in that same pocket with Gibson Girl. Although a little bit off pace now. I mean, this whole thing sounds like, again, kind of going back to that reverb idea that I had at the beginning. And that sound and that atmosphere has carried itself the entire way through. But here it's something up that's a little bit more danceable, right? Maybe you're shaking your ass to it, right? And that's, going along the lines, if we're following the story, right? Along the storyline where she's sowing her oats, so to speak, right? Running wild, and especially if you were raised religious or raised in a, kind of, just, you were told, be like this, and we want to keep you like that. Well, once you take the ropes off, it tends to explode and shit. So I think that's kind of what's going on here without saying anything else. The title refers to Charles Dana Gibson and the woman he famously drew, often considered the pinnacle of American beauty standards. I see what you're saying. Draw me like one of your French girls, huh? Within the storylines of the album, she's being drugged and pimped out. Okay, yeah. I didn't know if there was something to say, like maybe, there's the sense of, having been controlled for so long and kind of getting a kick out of it that way, so to speak. You know what I mean? But I'll give just as much credence to that, I think. Someone get him a defibrillator with this next one. You guys keep saying that, and I mean, it's still ticking away. I mean, I'm gonna live forever until I, have a heart attack eating a corned beef sandwich or something like that. That's what's gonna happen to me. All right, moving on. I don't know how to pronounce that.
I followed you in. I was with you there. I invited you in. Twice I did. You looked too much. But not like I do.
Okay, so I'm going to try to pronounce this. You let me know in the comments how this is pronounced. Ptolemaea? Ptolemaea? I'm assuming the P there is silent. And, talk about narrative, because that's exactly what this song is for. I think it's a song in the sense that there is a loose musical composition around it. But this is an album song, ladies and gentlemen. This is kind of odd to listen to out of context, and any more removed from out of the context of the album is just fucking terrifying. So, is this like, is she meeting the devil here? Is that what's going on? Or is this like some kind of like coming to terms with some of the stuff that was happening in the last song? Maybe the life that she was leading? Or is this, some type of like punishment for leaving the church or something like that? It's just terrifying. This is absolutely terrifying. And I kind of clocked it at the beginning when but knowing that this was going to be a longer album, might be a little bit more depressing, might sound a little bit like Death Consciousness by Have a Nice Life. And that's just scary and depressing and death for an hour and a half. And that's what it took me back to. And this is even a little bit scarier, I'm not going to lie. The title refers to Dante's Inferno and derives from the idea of the 4 concentric rings in the 9th circle of hell. Dante says that Ptolemy, the ring for betrayal, takes an individual's living body and is to possess it by demons, binding their souls to hell. Essentially, yeah, it's a supernatural hallucination of sorts, but also a physical manifestation of her hardships catching up with her no matter where she runs. Her fleeting church and... Okay, cool. Yeah. See, I'm getting fucking good at this. Who the fuck needs genius? All right, so we'll see what happens once we've met death and the devil and hell and I don't know. I'd imagine Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's see what we get after that. August Underground. Televangelism. Okay, so I was wondering if we were going to get a hard cut into the next song, and we did get a hard cut or a seamless transition. We did not. So those are instrumental tracks, but seeing as though, August Underground came after Ptolemaea, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, it's knowing if she came face to face with the devil, or if this is, supposedly consequences for, her leaving her past life and, getting into all this maybe turmoil that she was in. It's that, in the corner of a dark room and you're wet from cold sweating, shaking and shivers and all of that crap. So, she was kind of drugged up. So I don't know if that's like maybe a withdrawal thing. This is all coming from the mind of Jerry Bees, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta keep remembering that, and then whereas it ends, and then we go into televangelism, and televangelism, it's this really beautiful piano piece. And again, the production is just insane, from like the overblown, like low synth noises in August Underground to these, bright and more calm sounds that we're hearing in televangelism. And, televangelism, it's like, okay, I can just be saved from watching the TV or something like that. So maybe this is kind of the sense of once you've kind of gone through, and I'll say the word withdraws, and, and we think about substances there, but, withdraw just from any bad situation where you kind of have this moment of clarity, and maybe you can kind of shed whatever, you can kind of get that monkey off your back, so to speak. At least that was my interpretation there. Just catching what, August Underground was a reference to. So I just had to Google that real quick. August Underground, at least the snippet from Wikipedia here, is a 2001 American exploitation horror film directed by Fred Vogel, who co-wrote it. And it's got like a bloody axe or hammer on it. So I love me some horror films, but I know some people who are really into horror films, so I'll ask them about that. So maybe in terms of the exploitation horror film, feeling as though you're being exploited for any which way. To me, it feels like a videotape being rewound and played on a CRT. I thought the exact same thing. So we're on to the last 2 tracks here. This is Sun-Bleached Flies.
They talk all about their money and how their babies are always changing while they're breathing in the poison of the pain. And God loves you, but not enough to save you. So baby girl, good luck taking care of yourself. So we all know how it goes. The more it hurts, the less it shows. But I don't mind, 'cause that's how my daddy raised me. If they strike once, then you just hit 'em twice as hard. Sing them there, show them I'm still praying for that house in Nebraska, by the highway out on the edge of town.
Okay, so that was Sun-Bleached Flies, and to me, a lot of this song really boils down to this one line. I forgive it all as it comes back to me. This seems as though that she's on this line, or at least is starting the process to try and heal from all of the terrible shit that's happened to her. It is really what it seems like to me. And the sense of, what I wouldn't, this was crazy. What I wouldn't give to be in church this Sunday, listening to the choir so helpful. I was saying, God loves you, but not enough to save you. We spent so much of this album removed from that. And, thinking that it was so liberating to be away from that. But now she's like calling back to whether or not it's a simpler time in her life where that was where she went to feel comfortable. But knowing now that even though God may love you, it's up to her to maybe do the work or to find her own path. And trying to, thinking like, okay, I'm going to leave home and then I'm going to go be my own person, but that didn't really work out all that well. Trying to do the most, but if it's meant to be, then it will be. She says it right there in quotes. And then it's just all these little nuances that she's so good at, tying it back into the album. And just planting her flag. It's like, this needs to be listened to in one sitting. I'm still praying for that house in Nebraska by the highway on the edge of town. And going back to that house in Nebraska, is that maybe the last time that she felt like a love or a peace like that before? And then using that as maybe that can happen again. I kind of see it as she grew up in the church and did have some comfort there. And though she doesn't connect with those ideologies necessarily, it's still intertwined with her childhood, and those feelings of home are still there. Yeah. Well, it's home in the sense of home being a state of mind. To quote Green Day, they say home is where the heart is, but what a shame, because everyone's heart doesn't beat the same. Jesus of suburbia. And I think that's kind of what we got here in a weird roundabout way that isn't a 9-minute punk song. Here on the channel, I usually do a recap of the album before the last song as a way to pump up the last song, but this is uncharted waters, as I am not going to do that, and I am just going to finish this album because I don't want to. This album has just been we're just going to listen to the last song. Strangers.
In your basement, I grow cold. Thinking back to what I was always told. Don't talk to strangers or you might fall in love. Freezer bites your sweet divine. You devour like smoke. When my mother sees me on the side of a milk carton and when Dixie's dairy, she'll cry and wait up for me. God, with my memory restricted to a Polaroid and never dies. Phoned you just to tell you that I made it real far, and that I never blamed you for loving me the way you did. Oh, you know that I love you, and I'll see you when you get here.
So it's a good thing I didn't do a recap because okay. She got kidnapped and killed, put in a freezer, and she's being dined upon. And that's the end of the fucking album? That's the end of the album. Okay. So give me like 2 seconds here. So, this is, I gotta add a new soundbite to the board after this album, and it's gonna sound a little bit like this.
It's a fucking masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. Pop the champagne. Pop the champagne.
So, Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain's a masterpiece. This was one of the craziest album listening experiences I've ever had. Definitely one of the strongest, if not perhaps the strongest concept album, hard-nosed concept albums we've reacted to on the channel, and it will probably stack pretty high among some of the best concept albums I've ever listened to. These little nuances to tie the songs back in with each other, musical themes, the intro to Family Tree, and then to connect that back later on into the album. If you want it, there's just such a vivid story here, but it doesn't hold your hand necessarily through maybe these longer, more atmospheric songs. And if you don't like slow songs because you just hate slow songs, then fuck you. Because the instrumentation, the production, her GD vocals, I'm almost at a loss for words. I wasn't expecting that fucking ending at all. And maybe now that I'm thinking about it, maybe Sun Bleacher Flies, that's either her right before she passed or now that she's since been removed from this life, her kind of, both Death Consciousness and Preacher's Daughter made me feel things that no other album has made me feel, in the sense of making the worst possible thoughts and maybe occurrences that could happen in life sound just so beautiful, and getting through it as if you had accomplished something and as if you had been challenged. Death Consciousness was maybe a more challenging record. And also, by the way, Blair, you're only saying that because Death Consciousness wasn't sexy at all. And this was sexy, right? Prudes like me love Death Consciousness. terrific. This was like the complete package. If you're a fan of albums, this is an album. And there isn't a right way to do it. There just isn't. Whether or not it's just a collection of songs and those represent you for who you were in your time and place, or it's like to tell like a narrative or a concept, or you know things that kind of fall either in a linear fashion or that are all kind of tangentially related to each other. I don't know much more to say on this. So that was my reaction to Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain. I had a phenomenal time. Let me know what kind of a time you had. Let me know your thoughts on my thoughts. Be sure to like the video, as that is the easiest way to support the channel. But if you are looking to support the channel in other ways, make sure you click one of the links down in the description for my Patreon, where for just $1 a month, you can see this very reaction, full and unedited, and all the other album reactions that I've ever done in the past as well. Also, go ahead and check out my link for 40% off the Vantage subscription for Ground News. We thank you, Ground News. But more importantly, I thank you for watching this whole thing. With that said, I've been Jerry Bees. You've been awesome. Take it easy.
Diggity dog. Breaking. Diggity dog. Breaking.